Guto Harri was Boris Johnson's communication officer, basically his spin doctor. And even though he's not in government anymore, he's still doing the work for Boris Johnson. Just in case you've been living under a rock, this week Boris Johnson took his ball and went home. He was handed the results of the Privileges Committee and decided he was too much of a coward to challenge it. And so he quit after he got his rather controversial honours list through. This interview with Sophie Ridge is nothing more than sycophantic drivel. He started his own podcast a few weeks ago, and the first few episodes are actually quite good. They give you a bit of the inside of what's going on in 10 Downing Street during Boris Johnson's tenure. But one of the episodes goes completely off the rails. It's complete nonsense. And it's about how he was wronged because of Partygate. And it's the same thing here in this interview. He's trying to rewrite history, saying people forced him out because of Partygate. Partygate was actually all done and dusted in regards to the police and Sue Gray. Yes, he had to face the Privileges Committee, but that was because he lied in Parliament, and they wanted to know if he willfully lied in Parliament. Here in this interview, you'll see him try desperately to let the public know that it was Partygate that brought him down. Yet it's just not true. It's the fact that he lied about Chris Pincher. Chris Pincher was a known sex pest, and when he got caught for sexual assault, Boris Johnson lied that he didn't know anything about him. That doesn't get challenged in this interview, and it's allowed through as if it was Partygate that brought Boris Johnson down, when it was actually his own MPs that said, you know what, enough's enough. It's scandal after scandal after scandal. And 60-odd MPs quit. Sophie Ridge should have called that out. And on top of that, he tried to claim that it was Harriet Harman alone on the Privileges Committee that forced him out. Here, Sophie Ridge does challenge him, and she does say that it was a Conservative-led committee. But on the other hand, she does allow him to claim that Keir Starmer also broke the law by having a beer and a curry during an election campaign. Again, this is just another lie. The police investigated, found no law was broken, and then when the Conservatives forced the police to reopen the case, they found no law was broken for a second time. Anyway, that's enough for me ranting. Have a look at this clip and let me know in the comments, do you actually agree with him, or is it all just nonsense?
You are an ally of Boris Johnson. You're close to him. If anyone can help us get inside his head, it's you. So what do you think is going on inside Boris Johnson's head right now?
I think what he's done is take charge this weekend of a situation that was out of his control and drifting, inevitably towards a very, very unhappy and undignified sort of conclusion. I do understand why he feels understandably aggrieved by the process that has not only taken him out of office, stopped him being Prime Minister, but now hounded him out of politics.
He dramatically quit his seat for now. Do you think he's going to be back?
You never know. He keeps, he deliberately leaves us guessing, doesn't he? Hasta la vista, baby, or, more classical references. It's virtually impossible to write him off. But
in other words, then, is it because he thinks he would lose the by-election in his seat?
I think
why, really?
It's a little bit. None of us wants to interview for our own job. And we certainly want to be interviewed for our own job under the most appalling circumstances, where a committee led, frankly, by a woman who I've got a lot of respect for, but among the many jobs that Harriet Harman has done in the past, has been leading the Labour Party. She was deputy leader of the Labour Party for a long time. Can you imagine any Labour supporter being happy if someone like William Hague, shall we say, had the fate of Keir Starmer in his hands when he was caught drinking beer and having curry with friends a long way from home in the middle of lockdown? I don't think people would be comfortable with that process, nor should they be. And so I understand why Boris feels aggrieved, and I understand why a lot of people watching this will think, whoa, so a committee led by the former Labour leader can actually hound Boris out of office, when the police actually found him guilty of one minor misdemeanour that was worth a 50-quid fine.
At the same time, it's not just Harriet Harman, though, is it? It's a cross-party group. There's a majority of Conservatives on that committee. Yeah,
that doesn't, that's often worse than having your political opponents there as people from the same party. As you know better than most, Sophie, there's so many cross-currents in a party, and, so I don't think that having a Conservative majority means that your well-being is safeguarded.
It also had to be voted through by the House as well, so he's assuming that a considerable number of people on his own side wouldn't back him too.
I think he's just thinking, the true test in a democracy is whether the people vote for you. 14 million people voted for him, pretty much, at the last election. They voted for MPs, but it was very much...
He could have gone to votes in Uxbridge then, couldn't he? That would be the ultimate
test. Well, he
test.
could have done, but again, in the situation when you are standing in a by-election under these sort of circumstances where people are reading that you've lied to Parliament because the former leader of the Labour Party has decided that you did, it's not ideal to have to reapply for your own job. So all this stuff going on, and yet if you turned on the television, with some exceptions, most of the time, all you would hear was this constant myopic diet of Partygate this, Partygate that, Partygate this, Partygate that. And so he never had a fair hearing, I don't think. But I think there was an awful lot to be proud of that happened last year, and a lot for people like Boris to feel aggrieved of, that it was basically taken away from him. When those who managed the Conservative Party told Boris that they did not want to oppose this Labour motion to set up the Privileges Committee. Because for me, we had already had a police investigation, we had the Sue Gray inquiry, there'd been a vote of confidence in Boris, which he won. 2/3 of the party backed him. So I thought, surely at this point, we can just move on and focus on what we need to do to to address the concerns of voters rather than the obsessions of the Twitterati and,
I do just want to come back because when we talk about Partygate, I get a lot of people saying, this is a huge part of our life. We couldn't see loved ones. We lost people without saying goodbye to them.
And that goes for him as well.
Boris Johnson...
He lost his mother, I lost my sister. It's this narrative that somehow out there people were suffering and in here they were partying. They were not partying, full pelt. They were working hard. And he got a 50 quid fine. Now, that would be the end of the matter for a civilian, but in Boris Johnson's case, something that the police, with all their powers of investigation, all the due process and the thoroughness with which they check things out, found him guilty of something worthy of a 50 quid fine. Since then, he's been hounded out of office as Prime Minister and now hounded out of Parliament. I mean, in terms of proportionality, if he was a civilian, that would be unfair.
Nadine Dorries quit on the spot, showing solidarity with Boris Johnson for a final time. However, she did do an interview a few days ago, in which you can't actually believe the words coming out of her mouth. It's not aged very well because she had a little smile on her face when she thinks she's getting a peerage, which has now since been blocked by number 10. But have a look and try not to laugh when you think that she knows something that you don't. Don't forget to hit the like button or the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.